I can tell you that the day that my financial life changed, it came in two parts. I was driving, I'd been working really hard, I was a young man, working on this business that I was in at the time, and I was working 18-hour days, and I was totally broke. I mean, like trying to make sure I had enough gas to get from one location to the next. And I just finished at like 11:30 at night. I was driving down the 57 freeway in a place called Pomona, California, not a great part of town at that stage, almost midnight. And I was emotional. I just kept thinking to myself, why is it I'm working so hard and I'm still not succeeding? And I was mad about it. And I hit this tipping point inside. I don't even know what triggered it, but I got really emotional. I literally pulled off the side of the freeway, and I've always had these written journals, and I still have the journal to this day, and I wrote in giant letters, "The secret to living is giving." And then I started crying. And it was one of those beautiful moments, and it's just like I realized I was so focused on what I was getting, I was not focused on what I was giving enough. And so for about 6 months, that really emboldened me, and I did really well. And then I had some frustrations, some failures, and then I got mad because the people I counted on had not followed through, and I found myself totally broke again. I mean, like nothing, like down to $20-something, not knowing how I'm gonna feed myself. And I reached out to a friend I loaned $1,000 to, and he kept avoiding my calls. I was madder and madder, like I helped him and he was in need, he won't even give me my money back. And in the midst of all this anger, I had to figure out what to do, so I've always been a pragmatist. So when I was just 17, I was on my own. I used to save the money, go to the smorgasbord on my bike, load up for the winter, eat everything I could, and so it would last me a day or two, and pay the least amount of money for the most food. So I thought, there's a smorgasbord, but I lived in Venice, California, and there's a place called Marina del Rey, just 3 miles away, and it's a very wealthy environment. And on the water, there's a place there called El Torito. It's a restaurant, it's still there. And it's very nice, it's on the water, boats going by, and they had an all-you-could-eat salad bar, taco bar. So I said, I'm gonna go there. So I didn't spend the money on my car for the gas for the 3 miles I'll walk there. I'm not gonna pay for parking. I was monitoring every dime. Total scarcity. And I got there and I loaded up, ate everything I could possibly eat. And while I was sitting there eating, a door opened and a very attractive woman came in, and I was waiting to see who her boyfriend or husband was gonna be. And there wasn't a boyfriend or husband, there was a kid about this tall. And he was dressed in a suit, in a little vest. And he came in, he held the door open for his mom. He pulled out the chair and set her down. He was just such a gentleman. And then he stared in his mom's eyes, and he was just so, I don't know, just so loving, so there, so present. And it moved me. Even my selfish, little stupid place, I just moved by the love he had for his mom, the respect he had for his mom. I don't know what it was. But I went and paid the bill. And, I don't know, I had $17, $18, $19 left, whatever it was. I put it in my pocket, hang on to what little money I had left. I think it was like $5.95 for all you can eat in those days or something like that. And I walked up to this little boy. And I said, hi, and I shook his hand. I said, what's your name? And I don't really remember his name. I think it was Ronnie. He said, I'm Ronnie, I think it was. And I said, Ronnie, I said, you are such a gentleman. I said, I saw you open the door for your lady. I saw you pulled out the chair. I said, you are a class act. And he looked at me and goes, she's my mom. And I said, well, that's even better. I said, well, it's so cool you're taking her to lunch like this. And he goes, oh, well, I can't really take her to lunch. I don't have a job yet. I'm just 11, right? And I said, well, I think he's 11. And I said to him, I said, well, yes, you are. You are taking her to lunch. He said, what do you mean? And I just reached in my pocket. I had no plan. There was no strategy. I just grabbed my money in my pocket. I put it right down on the table in front of him, changing all, dollar bills and all. And he looked up and his eyes got really big. I said, you are taking her to lunch. And he said, I can't take that. I said, sure you can. He said, why? I said, because I'm bigger than you are, right? And his eyes got this big and he smiled really big. And I didn't even look at the lady. I just shook his hand and I walked out. And I didn't walk out, I flew out. I had no car. I must have looked like an idiot. I'm sure I was skipping it to some extent. I was just like purely euphoric at the moment when I should have been the most freaked out. I mean, I just gave away my last dollar. I don't know where my next dollar, I don't have any money. I don't know where's my next meal gonna come from. Zero fear. It was like, I went home that night. I laid out this plan how I was gonna turn things around, but it wasn't gonna turn around in a day or two. It might turn around a week or two. And I thought, well, people fast all the time. I'll go on a fast for a week. And I was positive about it. And I woke up the next day and I got my little normal snail mail on those days. And sure enough, there's this handwritten note. I open it up and there's a check inside. It's from the man that owed me $1,000 and not returned my phone calls for $1,000 plus some additional money saying, I'm really sorry. And you were there for me and I feel bad about it, and here it is. What was beautiful about the moment was, I cried honestly, and I And then I sat there and I looked at this thing and I thought to myself, what does this mean? Why did this happen? And I don't know if it's true, but I chose to mean that money came because I did the right thing, because I didn't operate from scarcity, because a little soul was in front of me, my heart knew what was right, and I didn't hesitate. I just did what was right. And I can remember to this day so vividly like it was yesterday, because that's the day I became a wealthy man. That's the day that scarcity ended in me. And that didn't mean I didn't have more ups and downs financially. I had plenty of those, but I never ever went back to that place of being angry at somebody else who had more, or blaming other people. Whether they got what they did fairly or unfairly, who the hell am I to say? What I want to do is focus instead on being a blessing in people's lives. That if I could find a way every day to do something to add more value for other people, then I wouldn't have to worry about anything. Just like you don't worry about taking a breath, whether oxygen is going to be there, you don't ask the question, you know it's going to be there. I figured if I left my life that way, where I spontaneously did what was right consistently, I wouldn't have to worry, and I haven't another day since. That doesn't mean I didn't have stressful times, but I haven't gone back to that place of scarcity. And I really think that's what this book is ultimately about. It gives you all the tools, all the strategies of the richest people on earth, but it's also about making that psychological, emotional, if you want to call it spiritual shift, that really changes the quality of life forever, which makes you wealthy the day you stop being scarce, and the way that you give of your heart, your body, your soul, your mind, and your money.